The meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. Over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, hello, good evening and welcome to the Beaconsfield Town Council meeting this day, 18th of March 2021. Before I ask my councillors to introduce themselves, there's a few words I would like to say. I would like to remind councillors that we're here, excuse me a second, that we're here to represent our parishioners in the best way that we can, and that we're all bound by something called the Nolan Principles. The Nolan Principles, not formed by a 70s girl group, but these are very important principles. I could describe as a form of a staff handbook, which I actually have at work, setting out what is expected from and the actions needed from councillors. I'm not going to go through all of the principles, but I'd like to refer to number 3, objectivity. Holders of public office must act and take decisions impartially, fairly, and on merit, using the best evidence and without discrimination or bias. As chairman, I would encourage participation, encourage ideas and examples, and we've had some good debates in this town council. The need for debate is essential, and of course, sometimes there will be heated arguments, but we also need to be courteous to members of the public, councillors, and other persons present. Respect the ideas of others. Everyone has something to contribute. Ensure that councillors challenge the idea and not the person. Remain open-minded and non-judgmental. These are all golden qualities and good advice when holding meetings or debates. Unfortunately, it's become apparent that there has been some disparaging comments, mentions on media and emails, both internally to staff and councillors and to some of the public. These are not Nolan principles in action here. This council has located the cause of these comments and is dealing with them through the appropriate systems. We will offer no further comment at this time on the subject. I'd like to say that if my legacy at this council is the opening comment, then so be it, it's opening comment. I'd like to encourage that any issues like this that are brought to the new council's attention may be dealt with immediately and not left, and I'd offer my full support to this. Thank you. Right, I'd like to introduce our councillors tonight and staff. I'd start with my Deputy Mayor, Councillor Pike. Good evening, Councillor Pike. Good
evening, Alistair Pike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Cranmer.
Yes, good evening, Anita Cranmer.
Councillor Saunders.
Good evening, Councillor for the West Ward.
Councillor Basterman.
Hi, Philip Basterman, Councillor for the West Ward.
Councillor Schofield.
Good evening, welcome to the meeting.
Councillor N.
Hi, Jackson and Councillor Jackson and for the West Ward. Thank you.
Councillor Corney.
Good evening. I'm a representative of the West Ward.
Thank you. We're still awaiting, I believe, Councillor Barler and Councillor Owen.
Councillor Barler's here.
Apologies, Rita, and Councillor Barler.
Hello there, I'm Rita Barler and I'm for Central Ward.
Thank you. And of course, our clerk, Alexa Collins.
Good evening.
Right.
Our project manager here as well. And
I
we've
do
got
apologise. And Councillor Shaw, thank you.
Good evening.
And of course,
Councillor Lorna Shaw for the North Ward.
And of course, Jeanette Buckle, our project manager.
Hi.
Okay, great. Okay, let's move on. Could we have apologies for absence, please?
I have apologies from John Reid and from Councillor Patrick Hogan.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? Declarations of interest?
Alistair has his hand up.
Alistair, thank you.
Yes, I'm a member of the Beaconsfield Society and also a trustee of the Old Town Reading Room.
Okay, thank you. And Anita, Councillor Cranmer?
Yes, I probably should declare I am the chair of the Beaconsfield and Chepping Community Board and also chair of Better Connected Beaconsfield, the charity in Beaconsfield.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Saunders.
I should declare that I'm chairman of the Beaconsfield Community Association and chairman of the South Bucks Association of Local Councils and I'm on the executive board of the Buckinghamshire and Milton Keynes Association of Local Councils.
Thank you. And Councillor M.
Would like to declare that I'm a member of the Beaconsfield Society. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's everybody. I'd like to move on to the public questions, please. And if I could start with the clerk.
Yes, I have received public questions from the Beaconsfield Society. There are a number of questions. So if I read them out initially, and then you can decide how you're going to deal with those. And Sandy has his hand up.
Sandy.
Yes, I also ought to declare that I'm Vice President of the Beaconsfield Society, but I have no voting.
I'm amazed you have any spare time, Councillor Saunders. Back with you, Clark.
Okay, so I have a letter from the Beaconsfield Society which says that they have been asked to submit these questions on behalf of the Beaconsfield Society for inclusion in the Town Council meeting in the public questions section today. Recently, the Beaconsfield Society complained about Councillor Patrick Hogan's use of the Vision for Beaconsfield Facebook page for personal use and in impersonating the Town Council clearly in breach of the Code of Conduct for Councillors adopted under the Unitary Council Constitution. The complaint was heard and we were told that Councillor Hogan had been asked to desist from using the Facebook page in this way or hand over sign-in rights of the page to the town clerk. We note this has not happened and Councillor Hogan has ignored your own procedures. Will the council now be reporting itself to the monitoring officer at Bucks Council, as the original complaint had to be registered and is bringing the whole town council into disrepute? If the council is not doing this, what action will now be taken to ensure councillors in Beaconsfield adhere to the Code of Conduct?
I think I'd like to answer that. So the response is when people are elected to public office, they sign a declaration of acceptance of office. When they do so, they agree to be bound by the Code of Conduct. Apologies. Under the Local Government Act, that code is the one supplied and monitored by Buckinghamshire Council. If anyone feels that a member has fallen short of adhering to this code, then they should make a complaint to the monitoring officer. It is not possible to report a council to the monitoring officer, only individual members of a council. Thank you. Next question.
Okay. The Town Council adopted a strategic plan covering the period 2017 to 21, which will shortly be reviewed and renewed. In light of children returning to school and homework being back on most families' agendas, can we ask how the Town Council would mark its homework and mark itself out of 10 on how well you have delivered on that strategic document, please?
I'd like to hand over to my Deputy Headmaster, Councillor Pike.
Thank you. Okay, interesting question. And the obvious answer is that we've done very well. However, I think that we should take into account all of the aspects of what's happened during the life of this town council, which has been exceptionally long. Typically, you would imagine a 4-year sentence, shall we say, but in fact, it turned out to be 6 years, partly as a consequence of the changes in the unitary authority and also the pandemic, which of course has eaten into everyone's lives in the last 12 months. If you actually read the document that was produced in 2017, there were a number of chapters, one of which covers fundamental aims and another which covers specific aims and objectives. And I think if you look at the clauses that are contained within those two sections, you will see that they broadly speaking encompass many of the things that we're doing every day, every week throughout the life of the council. There were some specific projects where I think if you consider that Vision for Beaconsfield generated 64 separate recommendations, many of those were actually taken up by different authorities such as the district councils and the county council who of course were in force at the start of that period in 2016, 2017. And there's no doubt that our role in those cases is one of lobbying those separate authorities to actually deliver on some of the things that V4B were looking for us to achieve. And my feeling is that on balance, some you win, some you lose, but we've done our best with what we could in many of those areas. I think specifically there are two things that we could also mention, one of which was the suggestion to restore a Beaconsfield for business activity involving businesses throughout the whole of the town in all three areas. And that has been hugely successful, with something like about 200 members now participating on a regular basis. As far as neighbourhood plan is concerned, which was something that came up right at the start of this period, I think that whilst it did not happen, perhaps at the time that we would have liked it to have happened, in retrospect, the timing has actually been more favourable, because with the local plan having been effectively withdrawn, we are now in a much better position to complete and hopefully have adopted a neighbourhood plan for Beaconsfield in a time frame that will come in before the new local plan of Buckinghamshire Council. And that could be to our advantage. So I think going back and sort of reflecting on the question, it's been a tough time, but I think we've actually done very well.
Thank you very much. Clark.
Okay, there's one more question. Can you please explain what measures the town council is taking to expedite getting the road to nowhere finished and providing Beaconsfield with the relief from the traffic that part of the town desperately needs? And can you explain when you think that road will be completed?
Councillor Cranmer, could I ask for your comments on this, please?
Yes, I'd be happy to take it. Actually, this is not a town council matter. The town council does not have any influence in all these negotiations. It can publicise, it can communicate, but it cannot influence other than relaying the views of residents, which is a very important thing to do. The history of this, we all know. 2014, a planning application was set up with a road included. 2017, the planning application was activated and the road was curtailed by the need for affordable housing at that time, as it was thought. And it was said that when the 98th house was built, then the road will be built. I think everyone's familiar with that. The town council has no influence on that whatsoever. That was a planning decision done in 2017. But subsequent to that, since it is in the matter of public interest, many things have happened. There have been many discussions with Bucks Council, with HS2 and with Inland Homes. Some have included just the council, some have included the MP, some have included Beaconsfield Society. Alison Wheelhouse was present at a meeting that I was at with Joy Morrissey, and some have been just with our MP. The conclusion of all these discussions has been that the council offered to facilitate a loan to Inland Homes if they chose to take it up to complete the road. And the road in Inland Homes estimation would now cost them 10 million. Inland Homes has never responded to that offer. This is completely outside of the town council's remit. This is between Bucks Council and Inland Homes. The MP on our behalf has spoken with HS2 to see if they would be able to provide a grant or any means of opening up that road. HS2 was not interested. So it all seems like not good news, because basically there is no change, and that is entirely down to the developer. The developer signed the contract, agreed it was signed with South Bucks District Council at that time, but it's a binding contract and we cannot do anything about it unless they change. However, good news. Yesterday, it was announced that the council had flatly refused HS2's requests for transportation, lorry transportation, to the extent they were demanding it throughout the southern part of the county, and particularly on the A355. Now, the pressure on the A35 was causing us all to be very agitated about the relief road, more agitated than we perhaps might have been. But we now have relief because HS2 can no longer push forward its plans without any body standing in their way. They now are all going to the Secretary of State. So it's highly possible, and we do have our MP to thank for this as well, that the A355 route will not be an HS2 route, which will make a huge difference to us. We will find out in due course about that. So, as I said, this is outside the remit of the town council, but that we are supportive totally of having the relief road opened as a town council and of having no HS2 traffic on the 355. So we've got 50% of what we want today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cramner. Well, that is good news, and let's hope that it comes to fruition. It's really good to hear something that's acted on and is positive coming back from that. It's great. Thank you very much for that, and I'm sure the residents of Beaconsfield will take a great interest in that. Right. Any more questions, Clark?
I don't have any more public questions, no.
Okay, thank you. Can we look at the minutes from the last meeting and to confirm the minutes? And are there any questions on those minutes? They were sent out to you. Okay, we'll take those as read and signed virtually. Matters arising not covered elsewhere in the agenda. Clark.
I have one item of business that's matter arising. In our last town council, we had a representation from Claire Yabsley, who had been putting together a group to put in roadside trees on Sandalswood End. And I don't know if any of you realise, but that project has gone ahead and has happened following your cooperation at the last meeting. And she sent in, she's not able to come tonight, but she has sent in a statement. So, and that statement is, local residents on the lower part of Sandalswood End are delighted that in early March, 27 flowering cherry trees, Sunset Boulevard, and a number of rowan trees, Joseph Rock, were planted from the junction of Ledborough Lane up to Curzon Avenue. Local residents have very generously funded all the new trees with the support of High March School. The dead trees were removed and the pavement repaired in preparation for planting. This is a great example of local residents coming together and working with the relevant authorities to make a real difference to their local community. Many thanks to Jeanette Buckle at Beaconsfield Town Council and to Bucks Council Highways, Street and Streets teams for facilitating the planting. Particular thanks to Pete Whip of Ridgeway Woodlands for sharing his knowledge and advice and for sourcing and planting the trees. Enjoy the blossoms. Any questions, let me know, Claire. So
thank you. Nice. And I can actually bear witness to that because I cycled past them the other day and they stood out so much, it actually made me look at them. I normally just sort of cycle blinkered straight through, but they really look attractive. And you get the chance to drive down Sandalswood End, I'd recommend it. So well done for that project. Fantastic.
And what was also nice was because we were able to use our recommended contractor, Pete Whip, he actually got them a really storming deal. So it came in quite a bit lower than they thought it was going to. So
good, that's great news. Well done, fantastic. Okay, we move on to the Mayor's reports from myself, and what a year it's been. Even though Town Council has been very restricted with the lockdown, we've been able to keep the town running. I'm delighted to see the Community Garden project awarded funding from the Community Board team and look forward to that being put into process. I would encourage members of the public, when allowed to travel, to visit the site and also go for a stroll down to the Butterfly Nature Reserve through Cutthroat Wood. How exciting for young children. For your information, Cutthroat Wood gained its sinister name from the highwaymen who used to use the wood to ambush slow carriages passing through the area in the 17th century. Beaconsfield was used as a resting stop between London and Oxford, as well as by travellers venturing into the West Country, so there was no shortage of affluent through traffic. Certainly worth a visit. It's a very interesting place. We have the much needed new play park at Malthouse Square, which will hope to be a great project for this year. Moving on from Councillor Cramner's comments on the Relief Road, I did attend the unitary planning consultation in Wilton Park last year and told them the frustration of you, the Beaconsfield residents, on the delay of the bypass. I was unable to get much back, but my points were noted, so I could only do what I could do. Please be aware that we've been pretty active. We've managed to hold all of our planning meetings so far this year, not necessarily on exactly the right days, but we managed to fit them in on other days. I'm very proud of I'm really proud of the Better Connected organisation that was set up here in Beaconsfield and had first-hand experience of the great work they've done helping a friend of mine suffering from Alzheimer's. Thank you very much. There's lots of many other positive things to say, but let's move on with the meeting. I'd like to note the minutes from the following planning committees, starting.
I'm afraid I haven't been able to supply the planning minutes. That's the one I haven't.
I apologise, Clark, you did tell me earlier. So the planning minutes will be coming forward. Is there anything you'd like to say, Graham, on planning at this point?
Chair, from my recollection of the planning committee meetings, I don't think there were any matters arising. So it's merely a matter of record, if I may put it.
Thank you, Councillor Kwon. We'll move on to the community and safety.
Yes, that's me,
Right.
I think. Yes, thank you. Well, we did have an excellent meeting of the Community and Safety Committee where we made some good decisions and one resolution. It was decided to proceed with the water fountain project as quickly as possible, and this is very well underway. I know our project manager has really speeded things up, and the mayor also has intervened in this. So I think we'll see a water fountain installed very soon. So that was a really good decision that was taken. We also made other decisions. We decided that it would be a good thing to have a newsletter again, since that had gone down well before. And so we have actually commissioned Communities Together. Is that the name?
Beaconsfield Together.
Thank you, Beaconsfield Together, to give us a very nice two-page spread 4 times a year when we can let the public, let the town know about things we're doing. And the first edition comes out very soon, I think. So that was a very good decision. We also made a decision at that meeting to keep the Christmas lights on for a short extra period of time, as was allowed in the contract. So it didn't cost us anything. It was almost as if the contract hadn't run out. And I think this brought some joy to the town at a very dark time. Other things were decided as well, but we decided to go ahead with the town map, which had been very kindly provided by members of the Beaconsfield Society, not as the Beaconsfield Society, actually, but as individual residents as was the local area forum. So pretty soon you will be seeing a really nice town map set up in the market garden. It was a good meeting, so I commend the minutes to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cramner. Just for confirmation, the Beaconsfield Together magazine is now available, and you can see the centre spread. So you should be able to pick it up, I think, at various outlets around Beaconsfield.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to Councillor Schofield and the minutes for open spaces.
Thank you. On the meeting of 11th of February, we basically agreed to upgrade the aging CCTV equipment at the Hawksby Youth Club, just to give the play area a bit more added protection. As modern technology comes on, we'll now be able to monitor it 24/7. and it was also agreed on details. This is where we have a crossover with the community, with the drinking fountain. We agreed on some more parts for that, so that's all going forward. So we all look forward to having our drinking out of that. And we also had quite a lot of detail about the allotments. As I'm sure you're aware, as councillors, we've received numerous emails this year about allotments, and we are looking to improve our current allotments. And we have now decided on a policy going forward for that. So that was all very, very positive, and it's good to see so much interest from the public in allotments. I think that was the main things. But yeah, this is all good stuff.
I think you missed your highlight, your Malthouse Square.
Oh, Malthouse Square. I know. I was thinking that we were coming on to that bit later. Hopefully
it is also on the agenda later on.
You can see it in the agenda, and I don't want to put too much out there, but it's going to be fantastic, and the details are coming up shortly.
True. Thank you very much. We move on to Councillor Shaw for the diligence and hard work she's been doing with the governance. If I could hand over to you.
Thank you, Chair. We had a governance meeting on the 25th of February, and there was one item on the agenda, and that was for us to consider the NELC model financial regulations. So we spent at least 2 hours going through the standard document, looking at the options that were applicable to our council, and it was a successful meeting. And we did resolve to present them to you this evening, which we'll talk about later.
Thank you very much. And on to the Resources Committee, Councillor Pike, please.
Thank you. Our last meeting was 1 week ago on the 11th of March, and we started off by looking at the financial statements for the year ending in sort of literally 10 days time from now. And typically one will look for a balanced budget in a town or parish council. So effectively, the notion is that you make a budget that is based on what you need relative to your planned expenditure. Now, the year that we've just had has been an exceptionally unusual period of time. And not surprisingly, both our income and our expenditure were quite different from what was expected at the outset. As far as income is concerned, we were less than we had hoped to be, simply because of the fact that we were unable to let the chamber on a weekly basis to various organisations. We had some turbulence with our residents who hire on a permanent basis throughout the year, different parts of the building. Unfortunately, one subsequently went into administration. And there were other tenants who basically were unable to meet their normal obligations. So we were at the end of the year about £40,000 down on income. Not surprisingly, we failed to spend as much as we had planned to spend. Hence the reason why perhaps most of us have all got a little bit more money in our bank accounts now than we would normally have. And in the same way, we were probably underspending by about £70,000 due to a variety of different things not happening, mainly in relation to staffing costs, where a year ago we had the expectation to hire a town caretaker who we hoped would be instrumental in kickstarting improvements in the appearance of the town. Now, clearly that has not happened, but hopefully it will happen in the weeks and months ahead as we return to some kind of normality. So the question is, what do we do now? Answer, you will have noticed in the earlier discussion associated with open spaces, reference to the planned community garden at Ivans Road, where we have already been successful in securing 50% of the funding via the community board. So the balance which we will source from the town council will come out of our normal budget and will not therefore need to be drawn from reserves. Similarly, when we go on to talk about Malthouse Square and the new playground equipment, we had already provided something like £10,000 a year towards replacement equipment over the last 4 years. What I recommended and what we decided last week was that we would increase the transfer to the reserve by an additional 10,000 this year, which will make the amount of money that we need to effectively borrow from ourselves to complete the transaction much less than half, which is good news because it means that we will be able to pay the balance over the next sort of 3 or 4 years and effectively then start saving towards the next cycle of replacement. Also should mention that in the minutes last week, we talked about allotments again, and we talked about the situation at Park Lane, where there are private allotments, I think in the region of 45 plots, and the owners of those plots are under threat of losing the site because the landowner chose to basically move in a different direction and to give notice to the existing allotment holders. And that obviously would be quite a distressing thing for those people due to the fact that they have been there in some cases as families for many decades. Now, we are limited in what we can do here, but first of all, the proposal put in by the Beaconsfield Society to have this site listed as an asset of community value is something that we have supported. And not only have we supported it, but the listing, if it is awarded, will be awarded by Buckinghamshire Council. So we have already written to Bucks Council. The clerk sent a letter a couple of weeks ago, and we have basically said that we are very much in favour of this asset being listed under the heading of community value. But that's not all. We've also managed to contact the owners of this site who are not based locally. They're actually based quite a long way from Beaconsfield on the south coast. And we are talking to them about the possibility of leasing the site. And if we were able to achieve something here, then it could help to keep those allotments going for a further period of time. Now, this is not a done deal, but we are hopeful and optimistic that we might be able to do something, and we will clearly do our best to try and get a result there. So I think that that is all I need to say about the resources meeting. Possibly talk later on, I think, about the dementia-friendly toilet refurbishment, and that also will have financial impact cover under item 10 on the agenda.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pike, and that is excellent news about the allotments at Park Lane. I know that's been very distressing for the people who have been there, and we've received a lot of correspondence in relation to that. So let's hope that this we can make something happen from that. Thank you very much. I'd like to move on to adopt the financial regulations proposed by the Governance Committee. This is based on the NALC model, financial regulations. So I hand over to Lorna, I believe.
Thank you, Chair. If I can just remind you that after becoming chair of the Governance Committee in May 2019, we started a programme of work to identify which core documentation needed updating and modernised, as well as identifying new policies as part of a best practice exercise. We've produced approximately 30 draft documents. Some are still in draft form. However, but as a reminder, we have adopted new standing orders based on the NELC standards. We have provided a risk register. We have properly defined the terms of reference for each of our committees. Those are core documents. As well as those, we've also adopted equality and diversity policy and small grants policy. So to keep the good work up, this evening, I bring before you, the full council, the new model financial regulations for formal adoption. Now the clerk kindly sent these out. It is a comprehensive document. Hopefully you had enough time to read. The committee went through it line by line, and we agreed unanimously that we would present it this evening. Can I ask, does anybody have any questions? I may need the clerk to help me with the answers, but does anybody have any questions?
Councillor Pike.
Well, I think really an observation rather than a question. This is a 20-page document for anybody who's unfamiliar with it. And it's to say it's dry is an understatement. So I think, well done to you guys for actually persevering. I did join the meeting for a very short period and decided that perhaps it wasn't for me and left pretty quickly. So well done to you guys, and I will certainly support your recommendation.
I'd also like to thank Councillor Shaw for her hard work on this. I think a lot of credit goes to you on this. Fantastic work. It's very hard to do. Clark.
I just wanted to say that now this is kind of the final piece in the jigsaw of the core documentation that forms the core governance documents of the council. For the last few months, we've been a little bit out of sync because we'd taken the new financial regs and we still had we took the new standing orders and we still had the old financial regs. So we were a little bit out of sync with those things. Now that we've come up to scratch, if you adopt these this evening, it brings those two documents into alignment. They're all based on the model documentation produced by the National Association of Local Councils, and it makes us fully compliant. So I hope that you're going to adopt them.
Okay. Can we have can we have a show of hands that the proposal from Councillor Shaw to adopt these documents, please? And I think Councillor Basterman, have you frozen? Okay, thank you. That's everybody. Those who are against these documents and those who neither here nor there. No? Councillor Bastard, are you voting on this or? Sorry, I can't hear you.
No, just abstain.
Abstain, that was the word I was looking for. And one abstention, thank you. Right. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Shaw. Fantastic. That's good. Let's move on to approve the project to replace the playground equipment at Malthouse Square and award tender. The preferred tender selected by Open Spaces Committee, the funding considered by the Resources Committee. Am I right in thinking, Councillor Pike, you can give us some information on this, please?
Well, I think really it's just going back on what I said earlier, and that is that we've been providing £10,000 a year into a fund and had already I think, put away £40,000 over the last 4 years. We've now added another 10, which was unplanned. So we have got 50,000 towards what I believe is something around about 87, 88,000 needed now. We will continue to accrue for the balance of the expenditure on an annual basis. And also, I think that, you know, we will be in a better position on the next cycle for the simple reason that the nature of things with playground equipment has changed over time, and probably the life expectancy of this equipment should be greater than the last refurb that was done sort of 8 or 9 years ago. So all being well, we should be able to provide not only for the future at Malthouse Square, but also to help towards the future cycles of replenishment in other parts of the town, notably at Hotspur Park and at Garvin Avenue. So I would simply say that funding-wise, we have got a handle on this.
That's excellent news. Jeanette, did you have a question, or did you want to say something?
Can I just say, I was going to say, you've got the new proposal in front of you, and I was going to ask if Jeanette could flash up the pictures, because obviously at the last open spaces, the committee did ask for a few alterations, which adjusted the quote that they'd seen. That went through to resources last week, so they've had the revised quotes, but I think it would be good if Jeanette could just show the photos, if you're able to share screen, or then photos, they are graphics.
Yeah, I was just going to briefly say the tender went out in September 2020. We got 5 good full bids in. We gave a guide price of 80k. Since then, we've had to include the disabled roundabout because that needs to change. Our preferred contractor was Wicks. Since that open spaces committee meeting, we've done those fine tunings, and I'm just going to show you the layout in a minute. But we've basically got, with this design, 22 new pieces of play equipment, which includes the replacement roundabout, as new zip wire, and the addition of further seating, and also new football goal posts and extra sockets, which is important to reduce the wear on the grass there. And the addition of new stimulating equipment, including a 4-meter climbing net, table tennis, basketball net, seesaw for 4, surf rider for 2, a free glider, which is of great interest to those people on skateboards. So now I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you will be able to see the pictures now. Just a minute. Sorry. Can you see the playground with the swing?
Yes.
Because I, for some reason, can't see it, but I can show you that. So this is the existing. Can you see my cursor as well?
Yes, we can, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the replacement roundabout that's going to be there. This is the new central place, sort of play area with the slide. Swings where they were before. And 2 riders there, and some educational things here. Sign your name, and also, sorry, and that's, you can just see on the edge there, the seesaw for 4. Well, actually, technically 5, if you include the little boy on the top there. So I'm going to go to the, that's the under 7s. There's also seating area, which includes for disabled people. This is an existing piece of equipment that remains, and there's going to be a table tennis table in the back there that is not in that shot. So for the over 7s, here's the visual. Hopefully you can all see that, yes?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
I think we're there. Yeah.
There's a bit of a delay. So here on the bottom right, you'll see the zip wire, which will be a new one. This is the 4-meter high net in the center there. And then this is great for climbing and quite useful. So if I go up a bit, great. So this is what I think will be very popular and is brand new. It's only been on the market, I think, 4 months, which is a freestyle glider. So if you've got arms where you can hang and you can like skateboard up and down, so that will be great fun. The usual basket swing, which is very popular and useful for different abilities and ages, and some other fun stuff. So in short, we've got a lot of variety for different age groups that's different, but keeping the favorite items that was well used, and also something to help team type activities like the netball, sorry, the basketball and the table tennis. So, and if you want to have, and there's the full layout. Can you see the layout?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yes. Which isn't anywhere near as attractive as those other pictures, but you can see where it's all going. So it is predominantly in the same footprint as what you see before. The only thing that I would ask you is that, or that I would recommend that you give us support the budget for £89,000 so that we can do this work. I will take, the other recommendation is to take out the benches from the main contractor's supplier, because we can use our existing supplier and Amersham Council and might make some further cost savings. So if anything, the budget would be less, not more. Okay. And another final thing, the benches are put down the bottom there at 25, but we might put them along here. I mean, that's just fluid, and we'll do that at the end and see where we go when it's all put in situ. So do you want to see any more on the drawings, or shall I turn that off?
Excellent, Jeanette, thank you.
Do you like?
It looks fantastic. Really does.
So you have 2 resolutions on the report which has been supplied to you. The first is to agree the overall budget, which would be funded in the way that Councillor Pike has already recommended, which is that we've already got a lot saved up and then we'll accrue the rest over the next 3 years. And then the second proposal, which is part of that, is we will try to take out the seating from this budget. So we're hoping to come in under budget, because we think that if we go to our normal supplier for benches and picnic tables, we'll get those at cost, whereas we think that the supplier is probably marking them up at the moment, which is their job, but because we can go direct, we think we can make some savings on that. So those are the 2 proposals in front of you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'd like to take on the first proposal. Could I have a show of hands to recommend the first proposal as mentioned by the clerk? And that is a full show of hands. Fantastic. And then on to the second proposal, as said by the clerk, please. Could I have a show of hands?
Which is to use our normal supplier for benches.
Excuse me, to use our normal supplier. These are the eco benches, is that right, Jeanette? Yeah.
Yes, recycled plastic earth anchors. They're the same manufacturer as the new ones you'd seen outside Waitrose by the Green.
Excellent. And they are very good, actually. They're very good.
They're very popular. They look cool. And although there has been some comment about why we're using plastic benches, the name of this bench is actually the Tree Saver. It looks like wood.
Says it all in the name, doesn't it?
But the fact is, it's not just a plastic bench, it's a recycled plastic bench. It's making use of this stuff. It doesn't require the same maintenance. It's pretty vandal resistant. We don't have to paint them. they're not going to, I don't think you can really mess with them that much. And they just look really nice. They look a bit modern, but they look cool, and we've got good, really good feedback on them so far.
Excellent. That's great news. Okay, congratulations to everybody on that. That's a great project to get moving. Fantastic.
And thanks to Jackson in particular for helping me on that.
Thank you, Jackson, as well.
Very kind. All the work belongs to Jeanette, really. I just turned up and helped when she wanted me to. Thank you.
Councillor Shaw.
Have you got a timeline for when it's going to be implemented?
Ooh,
it was on our minutes because Graham asked that at the open spaces, and I think they'd said it was 6 weeks from receiving an order. So if we get the go ahead today, if we can, I don't think Jeanette's working tomorrow, but we'll
so 6 weeks from order is what they say. Obviously, when we give the order, then you never know. It might be a little bit less. So I think you're talking May, and then it'll take a couple of weeks at least to actually be on site and set it all up.
There we go, Councillor Shaw. You'll be able to use the zip wire within a couple of
Can't wait to use the zip wire. Thanks, Jeanette, for that.
Right, great news. We'll move on to the dementia friendly toilet refurbishment. Remembering that pre-pandemic, we were working hard on setting a target to get Beaconsfield a dementia friendly town. And there were things in process using Sunrise Living as a meeting point for getting sufferers of dementia to meet on coffee mornings. And a lot of this was starting to move forward. We were recommending meeting points, Smiths. Actually, my workplace was one as well, only for places where people lost or confused would know that it was a base where they would be then helped. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, this all came to a big slowdown. The great news is that one of our councillors, Councillor Reid, who'd raised a lot of money in the past when he was mayor, had put aside, I think he has £15,000, I believe, was set aside towards dementia projects, I know in Beaconsfield, which is great news. So we may be able to utilise some of that money moving forward. But the dementia-friendly toilet is a much-needed improvement in Beaconsfield. We don't have many public toilets. In fact, I think it's the only one at the moment. And it's important that we get this set up. Can I hand over to Councillor Pike on this, please?
Well, I mean, I think the situation is that we could spend between £30,000 and £40,000 on this project. And in order to progress it now, we need to seek planning approval from Bucks Council. And assuming that they are giving us that approval, we obviously need to have the money to do it. So my thought is that at this point we have done, if you like, all the preparatory work, and it would seem appropriate at this point to be a budget that the incoming council can work with in order to complete the project. So my recommendation would be probably to propose that we allocate 35,000 from reserves.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a show of hands on the recommendation from Councillor Pike for the budget towards the dementia-friendly toilets in Beaconsfield? Thank you. That's the full show of hands. Clark.
Could I just ask, Jeanette, have you got a picture you can flash up?
Yes.
Of the proposal. Sorry to put you on the spot. We're getting the hang of this Zoom thing now.
Happens if we don't like it. Can we retract our vote?
No, you've already seen this at other committees.
Can you see it?
We can.
Yes, we can.
So this is Windsor End, and this is the normal gate. There's one gate there, and then you walk down, and then there are the toilets. Yeah. Can you see my cursor?
Yep.
So the difference is that there's a one-way walk around, and instead of it being the disabled toilet here and then ladies this way and gents this way, we've got superloos. So basically it's 1 in, 1 out. So you've got the protection of not coming across other people and touching things, and you've also got that safety protection as well. And we've added a bit of width here so that we've got a storeroom at the back. So if we have a sweeper or something, it can be stored there on an evening. So it's 4 superloos that one's full disabled, ladies, gentlemen, and changing as well.
I have a question. Moving on from the COVID situation, have you gone for touchless taps and other? There was talk about using certain utilities where it was hands-free action. I don't know if that was utilised at all.
Can I answer some of that? The design on this, we started this as a dementia-friendly project, and then the coronavirus pandemic hit. So we actually had to alter the designs to become corona-friendly and dementia-friendly, and the two things are not necessarily compatible in some ways, because when things become invisible, like you have to wave your hands instead of turning on a tap, actually that can be quite confusing to someone suffering from dementia. So hopefully we've gone for a best of both worlds to try and hit as much of the needs as possible. But obviously, you know, and that's why things like the single gate has been replaced by 2 gates, so we can operate a one-way system. With the super loos, unlike our loos at the moment, you could go into the ladies currently and then not know how to get out again, because all the walls are the same colour and it's not, you know, you're not sure what's the door and what's the exit and things like that. So hopefully by addressing each one of these as a super loo, it's very clear what to do in there, and also it does enable us to be better about cleaning, hand sanitizers, and that type of thing. But bear in mind that we have to keep some things quite traditional so that they are dementia friendly as well. So we've tried to draw a line between all those things.
Thank you. Any questions to Danette? Okay, I can't see you all, I'm afraid, but if there's not, that's fine. Thank you very much, Danette.
Pleasure.
Right, so we have approved that recommendation from Councillor Pike for the budget, and let's hope we can move forward on this with good haste. So I'd like to now ask, I think, Councillor Cramner for a report from Buckinghamshire Council. Any reports from outside bodies? Or was that Sandy? I do apologise.
One of each. So
One of each. Okay.
I think Anita for Buckinghamshire, and then Sandy for outside bodies.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it's where to start really, because obviously we've had quite a year. Buckinghamshire Council was 5 councils joined into one last April, and that was a job in itself, amalgamating 5 councils together and getting everything in place. And then, of course, we had to deal with COVID. So there are 2 streams really to what's happened in unitary. One is COVID response, which has been pretty fantastic, I have to say. And the other is business as usual, which has been excellent as well. I would say that, wouldn't I? But it actually is true. As far as COVID response goes, we are at a point now where we've delivered 200,000 vaccines, which is exceptional, really exceptional. And by the end of July, every adult should have had their first vaccination. And that is an achievement that the council does have to take part in, because together with public health, they pushed this through. We started off in a pretty bad way back in April, actually. And now we've got 20 sites, 8 pharmacies, one of them in Beaconsfield, as you know, and we've got lateral flow testing sites. We also have lateral flow testing sites where they deliver to the schools, and we are covered. And as long as everyone does what they're supposed to do, we shouldn't get that second wave, which the papers do love to talk about. Everything has gone really well. Schools have gone back, as you know. They are having lateral flow testing twice a week in the secondary schools. Teachers have had lateral flow testing the whole time. So although they've not been vaccinated, they are tested. They have their testing kits at home, all very good. We rolled out an amazingly good IT laptop program. We got the Rothschild Foundation, who gave us 140,000, and now the primaries have all their laptop needs fulfilled as well, and the secondaries. And because prior to that, the Department of Education had given 840,000 to them. So 840, sorry. Yeah, 840,000. So a huge number of laptops have gone out. And I would say that most children have them. The school meals project, that was hit the headlines, didn't it? But in Bucks, very good. We moved to a voucher scheme. And so children on free school meals, there's 10,000 of them in Bucks. And there's probably 150 or so in our area. They get vouchers, which is really good in their holidays. And in this summer holiday, children are going to get vouchers for meals, maybe have a hot meal at school, and they're going to get vouchers for activities in the holidays as well, which will be run by charities, which will be commissioned by the local authority. I mean, I could go on and on, so I won't go on and on because I'll bore you. Business as usual has been really good. We've managed to keep absolutely everything going well. Of course, economic growth is something that's ahead of us, and that is what we're desperate for. We've given 13 million out in grants ourselves as a council to small businesses, self-employed, businesses that couldn't get it through the government schemes, three rounds of that. We've received 288 million actually from the government, which is a huge amount, but we actually have spent it all because we've had to support 21,000 people. We've had a massive expenses and highways, transport schemes, school schemes, schemes with volunteers. We've got 1,800 volunteers, all sorts of things like that. But anyway, we have ended up on budget in all of our portfolios. We don't have we do have some deficits, but they are deficits that can be accounted for. We are on budget, we have reserves, and we are in a good place to start a new year, which will happen after May the 6th. The policy, the vision for Buckinghamshire was Buckinghamshire is the best place to live, raise a family, work, and do business. I think probably our prime need now is to do business, because we have to pick up our towns, we have to pick up our economy, and that is one of the things that the Department of Economic Growth in the council is adamant about. So I think it's all going forward. It's good. We've had a hard year. People have worked tirelessly, and I mean tirelessly, to make this work, and it has. So I just present that to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cramner, and I certainly know you've been working tirelessly. I know it's not been an easy year at all.
We all have.
Thank you very much for your hard work. Okay, over to Councillor Saunders, please. You're on mute, Sandy.
Thank you, Chairman. SBULC, or South Buckinghamshire Association of Local Councils, of which I'm chair, hasn't met since my last report. However, we have set up a separate working group to consider any matters of concern relating both to the delivery of services and or to issues concerning policy matters, which may adversely affect the various parishes that we have in the South Bucks Association. These concerns have been grouped into 4 different sets: Community Board, the Localism Act, the Draft Parish Charter, and Planning and Environment. We have been liaising with Wickham Association and with Aylesbury Vale Association, and of course with the Buckinghamshire Milton Keynes Association of Local Cautions, and also a Member of Parliament. And I hope to make a more detailed report to the new council in May. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Saunders. Right, we now move on to discuss the response to the Statement of Community Involvement consultation. This was held at a planning meeting that was held a couple of days ago. And I'd like to ask Councillor Corney for some comments on that, please.
Sure. Sorry, my iPad's gone blank. Fortunately, I got some paper. Yeah, you're quite right. We had a meeting on the SCI document, and Rita made a very relevant point that we should emphasise that the council's main aims, i.e. Buckinghamshire Council, main aims are we aim to make consultation and involvement in planning transparent, accessible, collaborative, inclusive and consistent, which I think we all concurred with. And I think the mayor added, sorry, I'm trying to find, it's all on my screen, it's all gone blank now. All right, here we are. The mayor added an additional addendum. I don't really read the SCI document, but under planning for new development, he quite rightly suggested that the Buckinghamshire Council had a duty to respond to any works on these projects that will negatively affect local areas and communities. And in that original document was reference to HS2. And by what we've heard in the last couple of days, it would appear that they may be doing that, I would suggest.
Yeah.
Which is very encouraging. As I presume everybody's aware, Councillor Pike exhaustively went through the SCI document and highlighted areas which he thought there should be various additions and items where the council said we may, and Councillor Pike quite rightly said that we should change that to we will. In other words, that they were committed to doing. And when we went through this, we totally agree with it. I've actually had about half a dozen emails, I don't know, from various constituents who, I don't know whether they've got hold of this draft plan, I'm not quite sure actually, but have expressed concern that Buckinghamshire Council, whilst appearing to involve local councils in the planning and discussion process, seem to be possibly excluding us. Now, I think that's always been my beef, but I think that the fact that they produced this draft document, and if they do agree to the items where they say we may to we will, which is quite a commitment, I think we're getting further towards us and other councils in a situation where we are in dialogue with them with regard to various local planning matters. This document is pretty specific, but it does, of course, encompass all councils, presumably, in the county of Buckinghamshire. So their needs may well be different to ours. But from our perspective, having looked at it, we thought that this document was quite a step forward, I think would be my summation.
Thank you, Councillor Corning. That's great. Thank you very much. Could I ask the clerk to forward those amendments as a response?
Well,
I think,
yeah, I'll I'll work on that tomorrow. Sorry, I've just
Unfortunately, I
lost
think
one of my screens here.
the deadline, I believe, is the 22nd, unfortunately. So
It's Monday, yeah.
yeah, okay. Thank you very much indeed. We now move on to Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group, about to receive an update. This has been a project that's most essential to Beaconsfield. And I know that certainly with the help of the project manager and with Councillor Pike, it's been an interesting journey, but we are slowly getting there. Councillor Pike, do I have to call upon you again? Getting my money's worth out of you tonight, but if you could comment, please.
Sure, I'll keep it brief. Basically, we have recently looked at the project organisation and come to the conclusion that we needed to supplement the number of subgroups that we were working with on this project. It is a very big project, and essentially we are going to adopt what one might call the Denham model, where we look at the town in its different parts, and we effectively look upon the areas of Holtspur, the Old Town and the New Town as three separate hearts that we can apply all of the concepts of neighbourhood planning to. So immediately we are establishing 3 new subgroups. We are bringing on board a number of additional volunteers who have expressed a wish to join the project. And as a consequence, we will have a new presentation from our consultant to effectively show the new volunteers the roadmap forward and the various stages that will be involved in bringing us to a successful conclusion. We also hope to run a public event in the summertime, maybe as early as the beginning of July. And this is something that is really important because consultation between councils and the public is extremely poor, and we need to improve that. And I think that with neighbourhood planning, one of the things that really goes well for you is if you can demonstrate to the higher authorities that you have actually consulted with your residents. And I think, you know, it's well known that with the South Bucks local plan, there was an issue there to do with consultation. And I think as far as our neighbourhood plan is concerned, we have a big opportunity to get this right, and we'll be focusing on that. I think just finally, I'd like to make the point that we have not forgotten about the other consultation that is out at the moment with Bucks Council, which is to do with biodiversity accounting. You might wonder about those two phrases being joined. I'm sure that Councillor Corney, who's our expert financial man, is well up on biodiversity accounting.
Good Lord, yes.
I have to say to you that if you think that governance is dry, this is even drier.
Absolutely. Dessert like.
I'd just like to read to you something because it's really quite interesting. It's about biological diversity, which is more commonly known as biodiversity, and it's the term given to the variety of life on Earth and the natural patterns that it forms. The biodiversity we see today is the fruit of billions of years of evolution, shaped by natural processes and increasingly by the influence of humans. It forms the web of life of which we are an integral part and upon which we so fully depend. Now I know what that guy Attenborough's been banging on about all these years. I mean, when I went to school, which is a long time ago, nobody talked about this stuff, but it is really important. And we have put together a response to the consultation, which is due in tomorrow. Let it suffice to say that we are quite clear in our minds that the element of offsetting that is referred to, where developers can basically try to pay for diversity to be established in other areas of the town and country, is not our preferred solution. Our preferred solution is to see biodiversity gain on the actual development site. And we will be making that point very strongly in our response. That's it. Thank you.
I totally concur, Councillor Pike. I think that's I think that's the best way forward on that. Thank you very much for your comments on that. So I think that will bring to an end our town council meeting, our last meeting before the elections, which are due in the next few months. The date of the next meeting under a new council will be the 20th of May, 2021. And you'll have a new chair, or there will be a new chair. I'm going to, just to summarise for this evening's meeting, I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly thank my clerk and fellow councillors for the support to me that you've shown over these last 2 years. I feel greatly honoured to have been asked to serve this second term, and I hope in these difficult times that I've been okay. I'd also like to apologise for not introducing Councillor Shaw's dog, who's actually stolen the show tonight.
We're losing you, Alex.
Sorry, can you hear me
We're
now?
losing you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you heard that. I'd like to apologise for not introducing Councillor Shaw's dog, who's managed to steal the show tonight. Councillor, what is the name of your dog? I'm sorry, I can't. What's the name?
And he doesn't come near me during the day normally, but as soon as I go on Zoom, he has to get in.
And what's his name, Donna?
Buddy.
Buddy. Okay. Welcome to the meeting, Buddy. If you can still hear me, I'm very grateful. I may add that unlike High Wycombe, there's no weighing out ceremony, as I've most definitely put on weight over this last year. Anyway, thank you all again, and I now ask for exclusion of the press and public for part 2.
Okay, bear with me 1 second while I stop